We have been coming up with a way of getting our visitors to interact with the parkland and the views. One of the ideas for that was giant bird watching. We are going to put these structures up in trees around the parkland so that when our visitors are on the scaffolding, they can use giant telescopes or binoculars and they can spot each of the birds around the view.
I wanted each one to have its own personality, but yet each one is the same. So I wanted it so you look at it from a different angle and it means something different. The process involved going through a lot of pictures of birds and finding some poses that I liked, making some models out of clay, bits of wire and bits of paper, drawing, just a lot of different images just to try and find a pose. I just chose polystyrene, big block of polystyrene, 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. Drew the big bird on lots of bits of tracing paper, put it on the top, drew around it and sliced it with a hot knife, which you cut through polystyrene with, and like a cheese wire that just has current running through it. Sculpted that quickly out of polystyrene and then sand it down with a surf form and sandpaper and wire brush, whatever works, till I got the shape that was jesmonite, so that's a sort of acrylic plaster, and then sanded it down for 3 days, took ages.
We've taken inspiration from the second wife of the 6th Earl, Barbara, who used to have a menagerie here at Croome, filled with lots of exotic birds. It was a shape that people would recognise as a pheasant. It's quite a common bird, but a golden pheasant has sort of got slightly different aesthetic to it, so it's got more of like a crest on its head, which you'll probably see here, and a very long tail. We've got 4 artists from the New Art West Midlands group who've had exhibitions on in Birmingham Art Gallery and in art galleries in Wolverhampton across the Midlands. Each of our artists are going to go away and create a design based on their own practice and their own style, inspired by the work that they've done with the children today, and to create a pair of birds, one that's theirs and one that's inspired by today's workshops. They came in, met up with their artists and split into 4 groups, and then they went across the parkland and around the house and started to design different ideas for what they could put onto these birds based on what they'd discovered around the park, or things that they thought were interesting, thought were cool, that they thought visitors might like to see.
This is the bird which I'm working on now, which I worked with the children from St Barnabas School. They wanted a kind of an outside view of all the gardens, but then they liked all the interior features, so I've kind of mixed the two together.
I was sort of going to draw like a dragon on the base and have the sun here, so it looks like it's going into the sunset, and it's sort of based around the Harry Christian room, because that was the kids' favourite room. And obviously they use a lot of like orange and yellows nowadays, so I've sort of based it around that and got the colours that the kids liked. I liked how I could see what they could see. But I thought to myself, if they're going to be looking at from the rooftops, I want something that will stand out and that they can see. So I thought, wow, if I paint them bright, then obviously you'd all be able to see them. New generations and that'll come in and they'll see sort of like see in a different light, I think.
The kids bring so much. They're so abstract about things. Nothing's a problem with them. They just want to get on with stuff. They want to scribble all over the paper and everything like that. Lots of letters, lots of their names or the history that they were talking about. And it is a real mishmash. And to be perfectly honest, I really like it, which was perfect for my work really, because that's what I do. The boys love the idea of radar, you know, that it was invented here. They love the idea of the Hunter aeroplane that was used to take off from around here, and they used to do a lot of intelligence, and they loved that World War II type of element side of it.
I like the idea of just showing the building and the grounds. It shows the grounds and then pans round to like you can see the hills and stuff on the other side. So I wanted it to be quite traditional in that respect. But the other one's completely different. It's obviously the kids' one, so it's just based on their sketches that they did around the house. I always had that in mind, that I wanted it quite basic. One side's red and one side's like a golden sort of colour because they're golden pheasants. They seem to like the idea of the interior decoration, so a lot of the designs are like simplistic sketches of certain elements of the interior.
We're looking at putting the birds in the trees. So we've been identifying which trees to use and which branches look the best so we get a good view from the court, and then looking at which birds are going to look best in which location. I think it's going to be hardest for the guys who are actually climbing the trees. They've got to hoist the birds up there, doing it all manually, and then I suppose just making sure that they're visible from the scaffolding. Views are really important. Capability Brown designed the place with that in mind, specific views that people should look at. I think overall it's going to make people look up in the trees a bit more, hopefully view the parkland in a slightly different way and look at when they're up on the scaffolding. It's going to definitely draw people's attention out into the park.